yo. What's up, fight fans? Welcome to another edition of Web Boxing 101 podcast live from El Chucotan, El Paso, Texas, in the installations or on the installations of Warriors Edge Boxing Gym and Promotions here on the pride of the East Side. With us, like always, my wingman. Can I call you a wingman, Herman?
Yeah, I'm your wingman, man.
The Hitman Delgado, also a former pro fighter, to give us his insights. Always charming and colorful, like always, Mr. MNN. Today's and the third man on the show is Mathew Aguilar, man, long life El Pasoan. Now I believe is in Chicago. But this man, the myth, the legend of the El Paso Times boxing reporter, second to Mr. Bill Knight. He's covered stories like Buster Douglas, Johnny Tapia, Danny Romero. He's written for USA Today, The Ring Magazine. How cool is that? And KO Magazine. So he's also been nominated for the El Paso Boxing Hall of Fame that we're going to talk about as well. He's covered so many fights. This guy is an encyclopedia, a plethora of knowledge when it comes to boxing, folks. I've read all his columns that he's wrote for El Paso Times. I look forward to them. And when he doesn't write about boxing, then, I kind of pass up the newspaper. But again, Matthew, what a pleasure to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here with us.
Hey, Tree, thank you. I hope I live up to your expectations. That was a setup. I'm nervous now.
You're not nervous, man. How you been, buddy? And you're in Chicago, right?
I am in Chicago. Yeah, I've been here amazingly since 2007, so 14 years.
Oh man, how's Chicago like? How's it treating you? It's not El Paso.
You know, it's definitely not El Paso in the winter.
Is it cold there right now?
Right now it's actually pretty nice. It's about 50, which here is spring weather.
Spring, yeah,
definite
wow,
spring
man.
weather. Yeah. I used to visit Chicago before I moved here, and I would see people walking around with like shorts on in like 30-degree weather, and I was like, these people are out of their minds. Now I completely understand it. 30 is kind of warm here.
Wow, man. Matthew, you've written so much boxing stuff. We got a lot to cover, man, and I'm excited. So, first of all, just tell everybody, tell us about your background, your family, El Paso. I know you were here in El Paso, high schools, families. Just introduce yourself to the people in the Facebook Nation, which is on the Boxing Reporter, live right now and on YouTube.
So my family's actually from New Mexico, and my dad was a football coach, and so we moved all around Texas. We lived in Abilene, Texas, where he won a state track title in 1976, and then we moved to Kingsville, Texas, where he won a national football title for NAIA. He was a defensive secondary coach over there, Coach Darryl Green, who used to a legend with the Redskins. And then we moved to El Paso to be closer to our relatives in New Mexico. And that was in 1980. And, I think the second that I arrived in El Paso, I arrived on August 1st, 1980. On August 2nd was the fight between Thomas Hearns and Pepino Cuevas. And they're showing it on closed circuit TV at the Civic Center.
Remember those closed circuit TVs?
It was closed circuit. No pay-per-view. You had to leave your house and go to an auditorium. Right? Remember, Herman?
Oh yeah. I got to watch. Who did I watch? Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran. The first one.
Yes.
Closed circuit TV.
And the crowd was crazy. I mean, obviously, pro Cuevas crowd went home disappointed, but I was hooked after that. I just began to follow it intensely after that, and then I became that interest kind of continued on through college, and I wasn't sure what I was going to major in or anything, and I thought, well, I love boxing, I love to write, maybe I could become a boxing writer,
And that's what you become.
And I remember my dad saying, hey, you know what, you have so much interest in it, you should go for it. And so I did, and I started out covering neighborhoods, and then I did the police beat, and then I did and then I went go ahead.
So you did the police beat.
I did the police beat for a year.
Wow.
I did. And it was fun. I think I think the biggest story I covered at that time was I think they discovered a body in a trunk downtown.
Wow.
So that was and you kind of learn some things, what's going on on the inside, and it was fun. It was fun, and then I went and I took what was called a loanership, because USA Today is owned by Gannett, which also owned at the time El Paso Times. So I went and spent a summer at USA Today, and I got to cover boxing. I got to cover NFL. And so it kind of opened my eyes, and I knew, okay, I want to definitely be in sports when I get back. And so I did. And then, rest, as they say, is history. I got in the sports department, and I stayed there throughout my time there until 2007.
So what do you do right now in Chicago?
I work for the housing authority here. I switched careers and went into communications. Yeah.
Well, okay, and you still mentioned that you write for El Paso Times, right?
So yeah, I mean, even though I had the career change, I knew I still wanted to write, and because my day job, I don't know that, I didn't have a whole lot of time to do what I did before in terms of interviews, because I'm working 8 hours a day somewhere else. So, I thought, column, an analysis column, the column that I'd continue to write, I just kept it going. And luckily, the editors there still want it, I guess. And we
don't have Bill Knight no more. So who's going to write?
Right. And I was, Bill was one of my mentors, and he was another guy that I learned from. I mean, the guy was is a tremendous writer. We went to Vegas a couple times together, and I couldn't believe the speed and the accuracy and the quality that he could turn out a story. I mean, I think he literally, he pumped out a story in about 10 minutes.
Wow.
It was unbelievable after a fight. Yeah, it was. I've seen him write a story in 4 minutes.
Well, I mean, Herman is also a writer, right, Herman?
Well, I'm not a certified writer, but I got my degree in photo and digital media. So yeah, I write for the magazine here in El Paso. Keeps me busy. I like it.
That's pretty cool, man.
I've seen your photos, Herman. They're nice. Really good.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Some of your wedding photos are really nice. I love those.
Oh, not my personal ones.
No.
Oh, I said, wait a minute.
I was like, what the
They weren't wedding. They weren't wedding. They were like graduation or something, I guess.
Okay, yeah. I do everything, all kinds of photos, sports, weddings.
So before we went on air, folks, you guys broke the news. I haven't heard this news that Jaime Munguia, the middleweight sensation, will be fighting in El Paso, Texas. Can you both give us more insights on that? Because this is news to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we know much more than that. It'll be at the Don Haskins Center, April 23rd. I can't remember the opponent's name, but he recently fought a world champion recently, and so I don't think it's going to be a great fight. Frankly, I think it's going to be a fight that Munguia's they're going to want him to look good.
Well, right, hey Matt, go ahead, Herman. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say. I heard from Felix Chavez last night. That's who called me to let me know about what's going on. And I said, hey, I totally just went blank. I forgot to mention it. So, yeah, that is true. It's going on. And I just didn't have all the details to it.
Wow.
Go ahead. And I don't think there are many details yet. But, April 23rd, Don Haskins Center. It'll be the first big fight in El Paso, maybe the first fight at all in El Paso since like 2018, I think.
I think the last big fight, well, not big, but it was Jennifer Hahn. It was in February before COVID.
And before that, you had Devin Alexander and Caleb Plant was on. Victor Ortiz. So there was some good fights back to back. One was the other.
Also, Burchelt fought there, right?
Exactly.
With Mickey Roman.
Mickey Roman, yeah.
That was in 2019. 2019, right?
That was a great fight, yeah.
2018. I think that, so it's been a while since you guys have had something at all. But Texas is really starting to heat up now because, they're actually letting fans in.
Yeah, they're allowing fans in, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be coming, and it's interesting to see who's going to be undercard. But let me ask you something, Matt. A couple of weeks ago, we saw a huge boxing event, at least a huge event leading up to the fight and before the first round, Canelo versus Avni Yildirim. What was your take on the fight and everything around leading up to the fight, like Canelo's opponent, the mandatory clause? So it was a huge event, and the reason why I bring it up even still today is because we were bored of the COVID stuff. This was the major fight, bringing us back to normality. What was your take on that? On the whole show, shebang bang, even the fight?
Well, I mean, I guess you have to give Canelo a little bit of a break because he fought pretty quick after his last fight, right? It had only been 2 months since he won his last fight, and so I guess he deserved a gimme. But I thought the opponent was really weak. I don't think we learned anything. It was a chance, for Canelo to kind of show how good he is, basically, and he did it.
How does it become a mandatory clause? Don't you think there's other worthy opponents that deserve a chance at the title?
Absolutely, but
how does that work?
Boxing is one of the most corrupt sports on the planet, and all of these sanctioning bodies, they're basically paid off to rank people high up in their organization. This guy was a top contender. He was number one.
Well, I probably could have gone up against him.
Yeah. I know Herman could have for sure.
Yeah, Herman.
Absolutely.
He was just bad, and he offered no resistance. It almost looked like he didn't even try. He looked like he showed up for a payday. And again, he only fought 2 months ago. He wants to fight 4 times in 2021, and in May 8th, he's fighting Billy Joe Saunders, which is a very difficult fight. I think it's definitely not going to be Yildirim. So I'll give Canelo a break on that one.
Well, and me too. But and like I said, I guess we just wanted to go back to normality, right? We saw other fights in the bubble, but there's nothing like having crowds in a fight.
Yeah, it's tough to get that energy. Even the great fights that we've seen this year, like Valdez and Burchelt, that was a great fight, great knockout. They would have been so much better with fans
with
there.
A crowd.
That would have been. Yeah. They're basically fighting in a studio. But hey, I'd rather have that than nothing. Boxing was one of those sports that kind of came back. They worked around it. Boxing has proven throughout the decades and throughout the ages, it is resourceful, and it proved it this time. It's a resourceful sport, and they put stuff back on pretty quick compared to other sports.
Well,
and now it's almost back to normal.
Well, it's back to normal, but do you think, now that you're in this topic about resourceful and boxing has lived up to all kinds of setbacks and it still continues to thrive, do you think that boxing is broken in the sense that there are too many championship belts and people are just getting tired of that? Dana White has known to be bashing boxing. He's been very local on the boxing dying. What is your take on that?
Yeah, boxing. There's too many weight classes. There's too many sanctioning bodies. There's all kinds of factions, right? So you got different promoters who they won't quote unquote cross the street. So PBC fighters won't fight top rank fighters, and top rank fighters won't fight Golden Boy fighters, and so therefore there's no fights being made. On the whole, there's no big fights being made. Back in the day, in the 80s, Hearns and Leonard, once that fight became apparent and it became the biggest fight in boxing, that fight was made in less than a year.
Wow.
And now look at this. Look at Spence and Crawford. They'll never fight. And that is just that's unfortunate for the fans today. Because I think they're being fed a lot of subpar fights, compared to the 80s, compared to the 90s. Big fights were made back then. There were some. It wasn't perfect. There were some fights that didn't get made, but now that seems the exception instead of the rule. It seems like if there's a big fight coming or a big fight on the horizon, it does not get made. Where back in the day, it did get made.
Well, I mean, and you're right. I mean, but do you think it has a lot to do also with the networks?
Yeah,
because networks owns these fighters now, you know?
Well, these networks are affiliated with the promoters, right? So, yeah, and so yeah, it's there's all these different factions, affiliations, and it's created like this this kind of stoppage of action. It's this effect of no fights being made, nothing meaningful being made. Now, Joshua and Fury, it looks like, is actually going to get made. That's a legitimate heavyweight championship fight. Right?
And everybody's getting excited for the heavyweights. That's going to be a pretty good fight.
Right. I mean, and the old saying used to be, as the heavyweights go, boxing goes. And, I think that's true. If those two guys can fight, it's an international, global fight, everybody will be interested in it. If that fight gets made and it ends up being a good fight, I think boxing will really benefit from that big time.
And then you got Reese and Ariola coming up. So that's another interesting fight. Where it's going to go after that, who knows, man? But it's going to be one for barrio contra barrio is basically what it comes down to.
Well, the problem, and I agree with you, Herman. I'm very much looking forward to that fight. But boxing's problem is they're putting fights like that on pay-per-view.
Exactly.
That is killing boxing. That's a fight that needs to come out on free Fox.
Absolutely.
You will get a lot of Latino viewership to that fight, right?
Yeah.
If you put it on free Fox. But instead they're gonna make people pay for it. It's like $50. And it's just it defeats itself. I mean, it's not as many people are gonna see him.
Let me add something to that. Mm-hmm. It's a week before the Canelo fight, another pay-per-view fight. You think people are gonna want to buy 2 pay-per-view fights in 2 weeks in a row?
All the money will go to the Canelo fight.
Of course. I mean, they already sold out. I don't know how many tickets. It just came out. I mean, massive ticket sale. It's going to be. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. I mean, and I think that's a combination of people just starving for live sports, starving for live boxing, wanting to get out. People are getting vaccinated. People are getting out there. So yeah, it's going to be huge. It's going to be big.
It'd be good for the real fight fans like us. We're probably gonna buy. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna buy it, but I'm gonna be sitting there saying all week, I'm not gonna buy that, and then come Saturday night, guess what the hell I'm gonna be doing? I'm gonna buy the fight.
I am the biggest sucker on the planet.
Yeah,
I have bought some horrible pay-per-views in my life.
Yeah, no shit. Speaking of heavyweights, tomorrow we got Alexander Povetkin versus Dylan White, Part 2. For the WBC interim heavyweight title. What do you think of that, Matt?
Well, I saw Povetkin today. He looked a little fleshy.
He did.
Yes. I'm glad I picked White.
Yeah, me too. It'll be interesting. I think White will win this time.
I think so too. He got caught. He was winning the fight. He had dropped him twice in the 4th round, and then he just got caught. I mean, that said, Povetkin is, and Herman, you can probably add more than I can here, but technically Povetkin is a really beautiful fighter to watch. I mean, he has every punch. He jabs, he hooks, he uppercuts, he right. I mean, body shots. He's really technically a very good fighter, and when you watch that knockout last time, he dipped. He threw a jab and then kind of dipped, like he was going to throw a body shot, and then came up with a left uppercut. And it was just beautiful. I mean, it was gorgeous, and I don't know if it was lucky, but they say there's no lucky shots in boxing. But it was a great knockout, and White's going to definitely have to be on his P's and Q's tomorrow. To make sure he doesn't get caught by the same punch, because 12 rounds is a long time.
And he is the bigger fighter. He came overweight on the weigh-ins today.
I've been watching that 30 for 30, and I was watching Tommy Morrison the special on Tommy Morrison. Man, that guy could fight, but too bad. You know, the drinking, the partying, and
he
just
was he was a very, very good, exciting heavyweight. You know,
very nice skills and everything.
Yeah, and what the thing he didn't have though is he had a bit of a chin problem, and that was kind of his downfall.
I forgot the guy that knocked him out. He raced $8 million out the door.
Michael Bent.
But then before that, he fought. It was before that he fought another heavyweight, huh?
I thought it was the one that Matt said.
I forgot the other heavyweight that he fought that got knocked out. He started out strong, like for 5 rounds, and then boom, this guy just caught him with the most savage knockout. They thought they killed the guy.
Oh, Ray Mercer,
yeah.
But
Michael
that
Bent,
was a brutal fight.
Yeah, Michael Bent put him out of went from
he was
$8 million to 60,000.
At that time, Morrison was he was all signed to fight Lennox Lewis for the WBC Heavyweight Championship for $8 million, like you said, an $8 million payday.
Wow!
So he took a fight before against Michael Bent in his hometown of Oklahoma City, and got knocked out in the first round. So gone.
He didn't even last 2 minutes.
No.
Wow.
What happened is he went after him, tried to finish him early, and then just got caught.
You know, you talk about the Povetkin and Dylan White fight, the first fight, and it was done in the backyard of a home, I believe.
It was.
Speaking of that home, there's this guy that's taking over boxing, and his name is Eddie Hearn.
Yeah.
Is this guy a magnificent guy? Is he going to save boxing? He's the UK. He's everywhere. Matt, what do you think about Eddie Hearn? He's just pretty much taking over the sport.
He's made a big splash. And, it sounds like he's got deep pockets. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. He put on that Joshua Ruiz rematch last year in Saudi Arabia. He's doing different things. Is he good or bad for boxing? I mean, I think that remains to be seen. He's the new kid on the block. He's been around England and, over across the pond for a long time. So, people know him over there, but he's kind of recently invaded America. And, if he can put good fights together and he can not make boxing so splintered somehow, I don't know how he does that. And I don't think he's much interested in doing that, to tell you the truth. My instinct tells me that he's just like any other promoter. He's in it to make money, not necessarily to better the sport.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you're right. And down the road, we'll find out.
Yes. Time will tell.
So a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of weeks, we saw, in my opinion, Matt and Herman, in my opinion, so far, the fight of the year of 2021, the fight between Chocolatito versus Estrada, right? Great fight. There was some controversial issues there at the end. I even believe that at the end of the fight, a couple of days after that, they suspended one of the judges, which he had not so pleasing scores, right?
Yep.
So we see that. And then back in November of 2020, because I'm leading up to my question, we saw some bad calling on the Josh Franco and Andrew Maloney fight. It ended after the second round when Franco's right eye swelled shut.
Yeah.
Referee Russell Mora, good referee, ruled the swelling came because of an accidental headbutt. Because the fight at the MGM Grand had not gone 4 rounds, he ruled it a no contest.
Yep.
However, video from the fight, instant replay, here we go, broadcast on ESPN did not show any headbutt that hit Franco above his right eye. Instead, it appeared that Maloney had a good jab in the first round and caught the champion flush, led to the swelling. Then the ring doctor eventually ruled the damage, kept Franco from continuing the fight. Well, I'm going to keep going here real quick. Nevada officials did use instant replay, and we saw even Robert Byrd was the main ref on that TV monitor. But after it was horrendous, man. 26 fucking minutes. They were watching. I saw it in 30 seconds. I already knew the answer. They upheld the referee's decision. They kept Maloney. Maloney that lost the title to Franco and Jew from reclaiming his title. Accidental headbutt Why do you think this keeps happening in boxing? Why is it so apparent at times and just disgusting to see that, Matt? What are your take on all that? I mean, God damn, it's right there.
Because people are somehow benefiting from people winning or losing, right? That look, you talk about Robert Byrd, okay? Who is his wife? Adelaide Byrd.
Adelaide Byrd. That she's been part of a lot of controversies, right?
We all know what we saw on September 16th, 2017, when Canelo fought Triple G, right? I covered that fight live.
Man.
I scored it. Now this was a
cool, man.
This was a my score was a little wider than others, but I had it 118, 111 something, for Triple G.
Yeah. Okay.
Adelaide Byrd. Now, however you scored it, most people that I was around ringside had Triple G comfortably ahead. Okay, so you're thinking at least 2 rounds, right? That's at least, and that's being very generous. That's being very generous. So how does Adelaide Byrd flip it and give it right like 9 rounds to 3 in favor of Canelo? We all know what we saw. We're not blind. She doesn't know more boxing than we do. We know what we saw. So there's got to be something else at work there, right? There's more than meets the eye. They wanted, in my opinion, Canelo was he was the popular cash cow, right? And they gave it to him, knowing that if he wins, there's a rematch, or there's a draw, there's a rematch, and even a rich rematch. So, I guess in short, my answer to your question is, boxing is corrupt, and judges are corrupt, and referees are corrupt, and that's just the way boxing is. Huh?
That's old, man.
Yeah.
You don't think boxing is influential, so that makes it corrupt? Like. Can anybody hear me? Everybody all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right? You think that if boxing would pick the referees a day before the fight and do all the judge before the fight, seclude them for that day before the weigh-ins, and then take them into, you think it'll be making more transparent and fair for boxing instead of picking the referees 2 months in advance? And I don't know if that would be.
I don't think that would make a difference. At one point, they were talking about having 5 judges, right?
It won't make a difference.
5 judges.
It won't make a difference at all. I mean, because the inherent problem is that there's something going on beneath the surface, right? What is going on?
They might have announced the fight 2 months prior and gotten the judges, but this has been going on like for the previous year. Yeah. They already know who's going to be the judges. They just make it an announcement to make it official, but reality is it's already been taking care of that situation.
Right. And you look at the situation of Adelaide Byrd with a scorecard like that. She should be investigated.
I thought she was.
I don't remember. She had to have been. It was such a horrible scorecard. But she should definitely not be judging other fights.
She continues to judge. But she's back.
Yes.
That hurts boxing.
I mean, when you have corrupt judges at ringside, the wrong people are going to win, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely.
I mean, hey, Herman, what did you score that fight? I mean, did you have Triple G winning that fight?
I have Triple G winning, not as much as you did, but I had Triple G winning.
The second fight?
The first fight.
Oh, yeah, the first fight I had Triple G winning easily. Not even, it wasn't even close.
It wasn't even close. And here's why. How many times has a fighter won a fight by continuously moving backwards?
Yep.
Right? Moving backwards. Right. His back was against the ropes for what? 80% of that fight? And it wasn't like Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvin Hagler, who Leonard was like forcing the fight into the middle of the ring for most of that fight. And when he got tired, he flurried off the ropes and then got back in the middle of the ring. Canelo never forced the fight into the middle of the ring. He was always his back was always to the ropes. And when you look back at decisions, like it's always the aggressive fighter that's going to, especially in Vegas, who's going to win, who's going to get the edge in that fight. He forced the fight.
Yeah, I mean it was, but you're right. I mean, you cringe when it goes the distance. We're like, here we go again. What
Yeah.
are they gonna call? I mean, you're like, God damn it, here we go again, man. And
That's
then
right.
back in November of 2020, when they're ringside, and I guess it was like the first fight, I believe, under instant replay, or they were not testing it. This was going to be showcasing the best of the best, the whatever the instant replay, and they got it absolutely fucking wrong.
They got it wrong, right?
Like, God damn.
And it took like 4 or 5 people to look at the same thing we were looking at to see what was. I mean, it was obvious what was going on there. It was obvious a punch landed.
I mean, goddamn, it was 26 minutes.
Yes.
And they upheld, and he kept his title, and that was so wrong. And you saw Maloney's face was just disgusted. I felt for the kid, man.
Yeah.
He really trained his ass off, and he fought a brilliant fight. I felt so bad for the kid, man.
But talking about those fights, I scored that Daniel Jacobs Triple G fight, and I had Jacobs winning that fight.
I did too, Herman.
And I said it's all about money because they had to set that up for the showdown with Canelo. So it worked for him, and then it worked against him.
That's a good point. I personally, I don't think. I mean, there were some very close rounds.
Yeah.
In that fight, just like with the Chocolatito Estrada fight, I had Chocolatito winning, but that the judge that had like 2 points for Estrada, I don't have a problem with that card.
At all, because it could have gone either way.
Right. There were some very, very close rounds there. The card that I have a problem with is the one that was like 118, 111 or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It was like, who the fuck? But that judge was, again, being investigated. Now, if they really are investigated, I don't know. But at least they tell the people boxing needs to be more transparent at what they do, I believe. What is Natalie Bird? Did they really investigate her? Put her out, man. It's like even Teddy Atlas has said, God damn it, these people need to be held accountable because it's ruining boxing, man. And in boxing, they're not accountable. Here's another thing, man, I'm going to say, that I think that boxing should be more incentive. It should be more incentive. Like, boxers should get an incentive. Like, for example, let's go to the Canelo Yildirim fight, okay? If they would have told Yildirim, look, Yildirim, if you do 9 rounds, you're going to get an additional $10 million bucks.
Yeah.
That motherfucker will go out, I guarantee you, for $10 million more, beat my ass up, Canelo. I'm going to get $10 million.
Yep.
But they're paid for already. They're not going to – I'm just going to say, fuck that, I'm already paid. Right.
Also, too, I've never understood, and I agree with you, I've never understood why they don't do, the winner of a fight gets the higher percentage of the money, right? Gets more money.
Why don't they do that?
Right. I don't know.
UFC has that.
Look at Duran Leonard, the first fight. $1 million for Duran, $10 million for Sugar Ray. Come on.
And also, you're talking about Duran, who is already an all-time great.
Exactly.
Right?
He's not some guy you're just bringing in up the ranks.
Exactly.
That was already established.
And I mean, and that, you saw Duran fight that he was possessed that night.
That first fight. Yeah.
And that was why. Because he saw the disparity. Here's this Olympic darling, right? Yeah. Getting all the money. I'm going to show him. And I don't think he was ever the same after that. But Duran, I think he reached some sort of emotional peak in that fight and was never, he was still obviously great after that, but he was just possessed in that fight.
And I think that fight was the ultimate for him.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? We are all boxing freaks, fight freaks. And you know what sucks, man? That when people tell you, what did you think of that fight? And they're arguing, I defend boxing at all costs. I defend it. I talk, you don't know what the fuck, but it's so hard to defend, man, when you see shit like that, man. Like that score, like the Canelo fight. I mean, you're like, Jesus, like Yildirim not coming out. You're like, oh, and then everybody hates fucking Canelo. Like, oh, that mother, here we go with Canelo. And I like Canelo. I really do, man. I just don't like his antics 21 minutes to get on the goddamn ring. Come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think,
shit, man.
This came up the other day about someone was asking about why, is Canelo as popular in Mexico as like Chavez? And I'm like, absolutely not.
No way.
I mean, he's not, and there's many reasons to go into that. I think Canelo is looked upon as someone who was kind of pampered. He's always given
on his way up
some sort of advantage. You know what I mean? And you know, there's some truth to that he's a bit of a manufactured great fighter. You know what I mean? He's fighting great right now, but you know, he lost the Triple G fight, the first
number one.
The second one, either way. You know,
having De La Hoya by his side also didn't help anything with the people from Mexico. I don't think that's
a good point too.
Because they hate De La Hoya.
Exactly. Even though he got citizenship from Mexico, but he still was not one of them.
It's not the same. He's not one of their own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like Andy Ruiz when he fought Anthony Joshua. They had the Mexican national anthem. Really, motherfucker? You're from the United States, man. Like born here. Right. I hate that shit, man. I mean, just fly the flag, man. The United States, if you're from here. But anyhow,
I found that kind of odd with Ruiz that he was always, you know, which is fine. He can do, you know, and he's proud of his of Mexican roots. We all are. But I mean, there was a lot of questions about, well, is he Mexican or is he American?
Yeah, because he even talked about fighting for the Mexican Olympic team, right, or something like that.
Yes,
or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, but. Going back to the Canelo antics, you know, I like Canelo. I think he's a great fighter. But Matt and Herman, we got to agree, man. He's the only guy that's given us boxing. He's been real active in the last 2 years. And if you look at his resume, whether they're in the weight or they're in his class, I mean, he has some very credible, notable fighters. He's fought Triple G twice, Daniel Jacobs, James Kirkland, Amir Khan, Floyd Mayweather. I think he has a pretty good resume. He's fought some good fighters. I like Canelo.
Trout gave him a good fight.
Austin Trout
gave him a hell of a fight.
That was a very good fight. Austin Trout, man, went to town on him, man. But again, I mean, Canelo is a very good fighter, very crafty and skillful fighter.
That was a really close fight. That was a close fight until the championship round.
Absolutely.
Yeah. With Trout.
Yep.
Canelo is the face of boxing right now, and for the next couple of years. After Billy Joe Saunders, what is next for him, Matt? What do you think is going to be next? Do you think he will move up and fight the big dogs at 174? Because if you see a big dog at 174, you guys got Beterbiev, or he'll stay to fight Charlo brothers, Benavidez, or Caleb. What do you think, Matt?
I think it'll probably be Caleb.
I think so too. The American fighter, right?
I think he'll fight Caleb. Unless he thinks that Triple G has gotten old enough that he'll fight him again.
Yeah,
because
look, I don't
want to see the fight.
That's what he's waiting on. You know what? I don't understand. I don't understand why the first fight was good, the second fight was good, and I feel like we need closure in that series. I mean, I'm getting to the point where I don't care anymore because we've been talking about it for so long. But I you know, even I know Canelo would be a huge favorite. Triple G has looked really aged in the last, you know, and Canelo. But hey, there's a reason Canelo's not fighting him, right? If he were that easy, he would be fighting him, and he's not. He knows what he's got in front of him.
Well, I think Canelo will knock him out this time.
I think Canelo will do. I don't want to see that fight, but let me.
Yeah, I don't. That's something like leave it alone.
Well, you know, like when Canelo says it's a mandatory that you fought this other guy and they were going to strip his belt, do you really think that the WBC will strip his belt? He's like, fuck no. Canelo's the boss. He'll fight wherever the hell he wants. Right.
Right. But, you know, you brought up Beterbiev.
Yeah, that guy's good.
That guy's a monster.
He's a beast. You see him do push-ups? Yeah. That guy is a beast.
Yes. That guy's a monster. So I don't think he'll fight him.
I don't think Canelo will go up to weight no more, right, man?
He may fight like Benavidez because, you know.
But that's in his weight, 168?
Benavidez is, I think he recently moved up to 175, but he can move up and, you know, he can move down. He'll move down for that.
He fought last week. He looked all right.
He did. I can't remember the weight, though. Do you?
No, I don't.
I thought it was 168.
Benavidez is a big, strong guy. But then you mentioned Charlo, and you know, Charlo's tough, man. He's really tough. I would love to see
Jermel or Jermal.
Jermel.
Jermel's at 154, right?
What? Jermel's at 154. Jamal's at 1.
160. What?
160. Middleweight.
Yeah, right. He's the one that's going up for Canelo. And recently, I think he was about. I mean, they're looking for a fight against. It's been on the news. I went blank. The Charlo, one of the Charlo brothers to fight. Oh my God, I went blank big time. Anyways, but I mean, let's go back here. Billy Joe Saunders. I think he's going to give Canelo a pretty good fight. He's going to give us all a pretty good fight, better than what we saw against Yamil. But at the end of the day, I think Canelo's going to attack the body, and he's going to
take him out
10 rounds. What do you think, Matt? What do you think?
I think it's a style that Canelo
has to have trouble with.
Yes, he hasn't seen this style since Erislandy Lara, like what that was 8-9 years ago, and that was a really difficult fight. Canelo looked flat-footed. He looked slow. He looked, he just didn't look good. He got the win, but this is the kind of style that I think Saunders has. And he's one of those tricky fighters that specializes in making guys look bad. So I think I agree with you. I think Canelo will win. I think probably like a decision. But I don't think it's going to be a great fight. And I think that it's going to be closer than people may think.
Oh yeah,
I'll wait till Matt's column comes out so I can make any bets, because that's usually. I'm not kidding, man. I've looked at the comment like, oh man, I was right. Or
yeah, I know Matt's.
Thank God I was wrong too.
Yeah, hey, you know what? But I mean, you also got to agree that Billy Joe Saunders has looked very horrible in the last fights that he's fought. He doesn't look. He looks horrible, man.
That's a good point. I mean, in boxing, you're only as good as your last fight, right? And
he looked like shit the last fight.
He hasn't looked good. That said, I mean, sometimes fighters, it's hard for them to get up when they're not fighting anybody of note, And this is I mean, right. This Canelo fight has been on his radar for about a year now. So, I think. He may just need some motivation. I do think it's going to be a difficult fight for Canelo. He hasn't seen this style in a long time.
Wow.
Saunders is tricky. He's very tricky. He's a southpaw. He's crafty.
He moves.
And he's precisely the type of fighter that kind of makes a heavy-handed opponent, kind of look bad.
Yeah, you're right.
Who was the fighter that fought Canelo that was taking selfies with him?
That was Sergio Kovalev.
I don't think he's going to do that, but
God,
how can a fighter do that, man?
Well, that motherfucker was starstruck.
You're going to be whooping my ass. Can I take a picture with you?
Yeah, man. He was like, man, I can't believe I'm fighting you. Can I have your autograph? He even said his autograph and shit. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, I think with like Kovalev, that was a fight that if it had happened 2 years earlier, it would have been different. But I mean, that's another example of Canelo and not. Yeah, I mean, the name on the resume looks great, right?
Of course,
but we all know it wasn't the Kovalev of 2 or 3 years prior to that. It wasn't the same guy. He had already been knocked out. So
that's the same as the Calzaghe when he fought what's his name?
Roy Jones.
It looks great on the resume, but it wasn't the same Roy Jones.
Not the same guy. Exactly.
So. What does Canelo have to do? And again, I like Canelo. What does he have to do to be worthy of people? What does he have to do? What are the fighters that he has to fight? What do you think? I mean, who's out there?
All the guys you mentioned. All the guys you mentioned. I mean, if you look at if you look at Chavez fought Meldrick Taylor, Edwin Rosario, Pernell Whitaker. He fought the best. I mean, the best of the best for years and years and years. He didn't avoid anybody, and I think boxing fans, even with a loss, boxing fans are like, okay, it's a loss, no big deal. I think just fighting the fights, then history will tell down the road how it rates you. But don't avoid the fights. Fight the fights that you need to fight in order to make your legacy.
It's like Juan Manuel Marquez, same example. He fought Salvador Sanchez fought the best of the best. no excuses. He fought
Hey,
everybody.
that's a great example, Herman, because think about this. Think about
Fought him
this.
at the prime.
In 1980, Sanchez fought 5 times against Danny Lopez twice, Ruben Castillo, Patrick Ford, and Juan Laporte in El Paso.
Yep.
Okay. That's why Sanchez is revered, because he took on all comers. And Canelo will be revered in the same way if he does that, and he doesn't pick and choose so much.
Okay,
right?
but there's a flip side of that, yeah? But there was not much money back then.
True.
There was not that much money now.
And that is why you won't see him.
Exactly. Canelo with one fight will make fucking 50 million. Sanchez made probably not even $1 million.
Oh yeah.
Of course he wants to fight more.
Not even close. And I mean, in my opinion, Sanchez was head and shoulders a better fighter than Canelo. But
absolutely, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I agree with you too.
But Canelo is making 1,000 times the money.
Pepino Cuevas, I like Pepino Cuevas.
Pepino Cuevas. I mean, he made 11 title defenses, and he took the fight against Tommy Hearns in Detroit because it was his biggest payday, $1.5 million. Payday.
Yeah. So I think it has a lot to do with it. I mean, I know we compare the past fighters, but now it's the money. I mean, and if that guy in one shot fight, one fighter is going to make $30 million bucks. And he's going to wait until next year to make another $30 million. Back then, Julio Cesar Chavez Senior didn't even make $1 million in his first 60 fights.
Yeah,
not even right. I mean, it was not heard of people making $30 million.
Well, back then, Chavez was always fighting on Tyson undercards, right? And so he wasn't getting the lion's share of anything. It wasn't until Tyson went to prison that Don King started putting Chavez as the headliner, and he started making more money.
Yeah, you're right. So money has a lot to do with this, right?
It's everything. It's everything.
Yeah, it's everything, man.
Yeah.
Folks, before we even keep going, man, we're on the mic with the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Aguilar, live from Chicago, Illinois. And then we have Hitman Herman Delgado, pro fighter, fought the likes of Vitaly Klitschko, Hasim Rahman. So we got a lot of boxing encyclopedia here. You're live here at the Warriors Edge in El Paso, Texas. With that said, folks, I just want to just bring up something that right now USA Boxing Championship kicked off tonight in Shreveport. The event will take place at the Convention Center over the next 10 days, drawing more than 2,500 fighters or athletes, coaches, and families as they enjoy the championships out of COVID. We're ready to go. We have at least 10 El Paso fighters competing at the national championships in Shreveport, Louisiana. Talking about the amateur scene, Matt, it's very hard for kids here in the amateur to travel to Louisiana because it's a far trip for them. And it's kind of all these big tournaments are out of town real far. But nevertheless, we wish everybody good luck over there. Matt, do you cover amateur too, or not really? Bill Knight covered amateur boxing.
Yes. I mean, when I was there, I covered the Golden Gloves tournament a few years. I loved it. I loved it. There's nothing better than seeing people at that level box because they love to box, right? Yeah. I didn't cover nearly as much as I'd like to, but I would love to see amateur boxing, not just in El Paso, but here too in Chicago grow. Everywhere, all over the world, it needs to. That's where it all starts.
Well, do you think, Matt? Do you think that? And we've been talking about this, man. And let me tell you something, Matt. The reason why I even put this podcast is because I wanted to talk about the amateur scene in El Paso, boxing, talk to people like you, and recognize gyms, athletes, and all that. We brought athletes here that are amateur, right? But one of the things that needs to happen in the world of the amateur world is more support. And I think that if high schools will pick up the sport, it'll grow. Like high school has wrestling, has football. It's a nonsense that they say boxing is too violent. That's bullshit. Wrestling is worse. But if the high schools will pick it up, start with a pilot program. I think it'll grow. Imagine how awesome if high schools had a boxing team.
And you know what, Tree? They used to do that. They used to have, back in the day, they had boxing programs, if not, maybe like more of a class, right? Probably like a self-defense class or something. I think it would. I mean, it's boxing's problem for the last 40 years has just been exposure, right? I mean, it's not exposed well. Whether it's professional boxing always being on pay-per-view, or if it's amateur boxing being tucked away, not being funded, not being recognized, boxing is just, it seems, has always suffered just a lack of support and recognition. And you need to have somebody who comes in, cares about it, and and puts the money forward to get these kids to Shreveport, get these kids wherever. I mean, that's what you need.
You're right, man. Let me tell you what the big problem is. There's one mothership that we all answer to. One, Colorado, USA Boxing. That's it. It's either their way or the highway.
Yeah.
They're the ones that set the sanctioning fees. They're the ones that set the prices. Then they go to the LBCs. The LBCs has their hands tied. That's it. It's one mothership. If you probably go to other contact sports like maybe jiu-jitsu tournaments, karate tournaments, they don't answer to one mothership. There's several organizations that everybody can do their own tournaments. Here we answer by the rules. For example, Matt, it's so hard to get a doctor for our fights. Fights here in El Paso have been canceled because there's no physician. It cannot be a physician's assistant. Oh, hell no. It's got to be a doctor. Let me tell you something, man. You think there's going to be a doctor out there that's going to want to waste all Saturday on his own volunteer time? I wish there was more. They're not going to do it, man. But again, the mothership says you need that, and a lot of tournaments get canceled because we don't have it. Again, if we had another organization to answer to, more competition, maybe USA Boxing will give us more incentives. The kids, man, to certify a kid or to get to register, it's $75 a kid, and it doesn't work off the calendar year, right, Herman? It's like if you register in December, say there's a fight in December, and the kid registers $75. Guess what? December 31st, it expires. Instead of not December of 20 the other year. You see how it works? That's so unfair to these kids. I have a lot of kids here in my gym that we help out. They don't have the resources, man, but we help out. But I just think that there's only one mothership that we answer to, and I think that's a major problem in boxing at the youth level. I think that's the problem.
Absolutely, and I mean, and also too, it's the fundraising aspect too, right? I mean, there's got to be somebody who cares enough about boxing. I mean, other sports don't seem to have any problems getting money.
Of course not.
Their sports, I mean, whether it's football or whether it's
of course not. There's so many organizations. There's tournaments in Phoenix, everywhere.
Yeah,
just one tournament.
You bring that subject up, and I'm glad I came up in the era where we didn't have these stupid books, where you had to go get a signature and we had smokers every other week. We drove down, fought all over. I had 152 total fights as an amateur. By today's standards, I'd probably have 30 because of the limits that like he said, it's the mothership. They control everything. It's not like these softball leagues or baseball leagues or they have tons of organizations going on, and hey, they continue to do their thing. And in boxing, you can't. Whatever Mama USA Boxing says, we gotta do.
Man. That's it. There's
that severely limits what you guys
time. Of course. I mean, there's one tournament, Matt, and it's in Shreveport. How come there's not a tournament in Shreveport, one in California, one in Texas? No, it's one. And then they leave it up to us to throw tournaments, to do, like Herman said, smokers. But sanctioning fee is probably $300 to $500. They make gyms like myself register, and that's $150. There's no incentive. If the mothership would say, okay, if you register your gym, Mr. Trevino, or Warrior's Edge, all your fighters from there will get a 10% off their membership. That's cool. That's an incentive that we look forward to that, but there's nothing.
Right.
I paid my fee for this year back in January, and here we are going into April and no fights.
There's no tournament.
So was there a Golden Gloves tournament?
No, it's going to be canceled this year for the first time ever.
Ever? Oh man, that's so you there was one last year.
Yes,
we
participated right before the pandemic took over.
What are the numbers? What are the participation numbers? I mean,
it was low.
El Paso amateur boxing.
No, it was low. It was real low. It was a good tournament, but there was probably 13 fights one of the nights, 10 the other night. It was very low. And guess what, Matt? We had more people from out of town fight. And I know the LBC says there's not enough registrants, but I think it's the mothership that limits that for the kids to register.
It not only limits them, but it discourages kids from, well, your guys aren't going to fight. You haven't fought in months, so why even participate? I'll go play football. I'll go do basketball. They play every week, or we have tournaments going on. So, yeah, it's the mothership that messes everything up.
And also, too, I think that's a problem everywhere is that there's other sports readily available that don't make it as hard. It's not as, and they're recruiting boys and girls that would be fighters, right, to play other sports. I think that's true all over the nation.
Yeah, but I mean, the boxing and the amateur, I mean, it's pretty poor because of I believe, that's my opinion. It's just the lack of the mothership,
And all you have to do is look at the Olympic teams that we've had since 76 was the best we've ever had. After that, it's just dwindled down where there's nobody. I mean, we don't even have a full team anymore. You have it's pathetic.
And I mean, there was years there where we didn't have a gold medalist, right?
Years.
I don't know. We've had a gold medalist in years. So, I mean, in that 76 team, everybody was a gold medalist. There was like 8 gold medalists. Sugar Ray, Spinks brothers.
Yeah, Spinks brothers.
I mean, and let me tell you, I mean, from what I've heard, that there's not going to be a Golden Gloves this year in El Paso. I know they're going to have one in Lubbock, and so we're going to probably shoot over there to take the kids out there. But it's just, Matt, it's pretty bad here in El Paso, and I'm not going to go to the LBC. And also the support, man, it's just so expensive. Nobody wants to sponsor kids. It's just, it's pretty.
Yeah, that's. I don't know. Yeah, that's no easy answers. That's for sure.
Yeah, of course. Hey, real quick, guys, on the Jaime Munguia, he's going to fight a Poland fighter. I can't even pronounce his name. It's Maciej Sulecki from Poland.
He's not from Poland. I just saw him on Alameda the other day. So, yeah, take it back.
Folks, we're with Matt Aguilar. You mentioned, Matt, something on your bio here real quick that you were nominated for the El Paso Boxing Hall of Fame. You were nominated but not inducted.
No, I was inducted.
He was inducted.
Okay, well, it says not. Okay, well, congratulations for that.
I think I forgot to correct that. Sorry.
Hey, so then that's another thing, that the Hall of Fame is not the Hall of Fame they used to be. It's not. I mean, and again, going back to what was the guy that runs it again? I forgot his name.
Tom McKay.
The wizard, Tom McKay.
But Tom McKay. I mean, nobody wants to take the reins and do what he did before. Nobody wants to do the legwork no more. This new generation doesn't want to do shit. Tom McKay did a lot for the kids, man.
He did. He's a workhorse. He cared. He made the El Paso Boxing Hall of Fame. He made it what it is.
Yeah, he made it what it is. Exactly.
And somebody really needs to step up and take it over. He's built that up to a certain place, and it would just be sad to see it go away, or but if nobody takes the reins, then it will.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty sad, but let's go back to the pro thing. Yeah, I got one question for you.
Yep.
The lightweight division right now is probably, for me, the more intriguing and exciting in boxing right now. We have Teofimo Lopez, Vasily Lomachenko is about to fight, Ryan Garcia. That's the one I want to talk about. Devin Haney, Jorge Linares. Mm-hmm. How will this play out in 2021, man? I think it's very exciting. For me, it's the division right now. I
mean, if they fight meaningful fights, then yeah, it'll be great. I don't know that they will. I think the fight that people want to see now is is Lopez and Ryan Garcia, right? That's the fight I want to see.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
or Ryan and Tank.
or
Davis,
Ryan.
there you go.
I
Man.
mean, but you know who I think is the best of. He's not a lightweight yet, but Shakur Stevenson is really skilled.
Very skilled fighter.
And he reminds me a little bit of, not so much in style, but just in his ability to not get hit, a little like Pernell Whitaker and a little bit like a young Mayweather.
I think he's much skillful than Tank Davis. I don't even think Tank Davis is that skillful.
Tank Davis he's got a lot of natural ability, but he's also he gets hit a lot. He gets nailed, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, if he ever fights a big puncher, that could be his downfall for sure.
What do you think about Ryan Garcia, man?
He surprised me against Luke Campbell. I mean, he got dropped hard,
Big time, hard.
I mean, and I didn't think he was gonna. I didn't think he was gonna make it. I didn't think he was gonna
either.
And he did. He showed a lot of grit. He showed that he's more than just a pretty boy.
Holy shit!
He really fought a good fight.
And Luke Campbell is a good fighter.
Yes, he is.
We gotta give him credit.
Good old fighter.
Good fucking fighter, man.
Good old fighter. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Herman?
good old fighter.
Good old fighter.
He lost the step for sure. I will preface it with that, but still, that was a huge win.
That was a good shot.
For Ryan Garcia. And but I do think right now, in terms of lightweight, Teofimo is definitely the cream of the crop at that weight. He's good. He's really good. I was shocked at how easily he beat Lomachenko.
Well,
yeah, he handled him easily. He handled him easily.
He did. That's why nobody wants to see a rematch, because I don't think Lomachenko can do anything different.
Do you think his dad? Do you think Vasily Lomachenko's dad had a lot to do with that?
His dad?
Yeah,
I think more so maybe his shoulder. He did have shoulder surgery, and I think that may have affected it. I still don't think a rematch would look any different.
That rematch won't make sense. I think his corner dropped the ball. After 4 rounds, you watch Teo dance around you. It's time to, go forward. You're gonna take a shot, but throw some chingazos. Don't just sit back.
He waited too long. Yeah,
he waited too long.
After 4 rounds, it was go forward and give it all.
He had some success late, and there was one point that I thought he hurt him. He had him against the ropes. He landed some big shots, but Lopez showed a lot of grit in surviving that. And I mean, he's the best lightweight in the world.
Loma might not even come back. Soon. I don't think Loma might not even come back anymore. It might have.
I heard he's going to fight pretty soon. I think he's fighting. I know Lopez will fight Cambosos, or I don't know the guy he's going to fight. Folks, we're here. He is, right?
Yep.
That's coming up on Thriller, or the promotions are Thriller.
That's exactly it.
Something like that.
Yeah, they won a purse bid. Everybody was surprised that it went to this.
They went to that.
Thriller.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because he detached from Top Rank, right?
He did. Well, for this fight, yes, but not completely. But there's now that there's a lot of friction now between him
and Bob Arum. Yeah. We got an upcoming podcast, April the 9th, 2021, featuring Hall of Famer professional referee Tony Weeks. That's going to be our next podcast. And we're live right now with Matt Aguilar. It's been a pleasure, Matt, to have you on the show, man. You're an awesome speaker, man. Boxing, man. That's cool. Hopefully in the future I can have you again, and you're a fan of the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. This is fun. I will start helping you guys get the word out, because you guys are great, knowledgeable, and you care about boxing in El Paso, and that's important.
We really do. Before we go to rapid fire, one last quick question here. On the female side, who's your favorite female fighter right now? Because those I like watching female fights, man. They're exciting. She fought last week, Estrada. Amanda Serrano. No, she fought yesterday
too. Sanesa Estrada.
Yes,
she's really good.
Very good.
She's really, really good. She's one of the better female fighters I've ever seen. And of course, Clarissa Shields she's really good.
Katie Taylor's another one that has all the belts.
Yep.
So
Serrano last night looked really, really good.
And she's old, but she looked very good dropping the German. I think she was a German.
Yes, with a body shot.
With a body shot. Yeah,
and very rarely. That's the kind of the problem with women boxing is they don't produce a lot of knockouts. Yeah. But when you start getting knockouts, then people will start paying attention.
So the female boxing scene is coming up. I like it. It's going to be exciting. Hey, Matt, are you ready to play rapid fire with us?
Hold on. Hey, Matt, how's the family doing?
Great. You know what? I meant to bring Pig over here.
Oh, man. Tree, you got to see his little girl, Mandy. She reminds me so much of Shay.
Let me see her.
Every time I see her, it's like, oh, my little Shay. But my little Shay's not little anymore.
She's sure not. Shay is as old as my oldest. Yeah. Is she 12 now?
No, she's still 11. She reminds me every day at her birthday's coming up in August, so she'll be 12.
Yeah, they're getting big, man.
Yeah.
Kids grow.
They grow. Quick. Yes, they do.
So I'm glad the family's doing good, Matt.
Thank you.
Rapid Fire is being sponsored by Warriors Edge Boxing Podcast, the Boxing Reporter on Facebook as well. Number one, what's the best thing about El Paso? What's the best thing about El Paso, Matt? What do you miss?
First thing that popped in my head was food.
Food.
But you know what? I mean, there's a lot that I miss. Food, friends, guys like you guys that I could sit and talk boxing with for hours on end. My old coworkers, I miss, and of course my parents, my family. I miss a lot about El Paso.
Do you come? Do you frequent El Paso like once a week, a year?
I used to go like 2 or 3 times a year, but I haven't been since 2019. Okay. So right. I'm actually going next month. I'll see my parents for the first time since 2019.
Oh man, safe travels, my friend.
Thank you.
Worst thing about El Paso when you were here?
Worst thing?
Yes, sir.
The wind and the dust in the spring.
What we're going through right now.
I bet you in Chicago they don't know what a tumbleweed looks like, huh?
No, they have no idea. But man, I remember my allergies would act up and I'd get dust in my eyes. That I don't miss.
Yeah. Best boxing movie?
Rocky, easy.
Which one?
One. There's only one.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I see. He's right.
Your top Mexican fighter of all time?
Julio Cesar Chavez, el gran campeón mexicano.
Yeah, right, Herman?
Not Junior.
Not Junior.
El gran campeón.
Oh, my God. Don't start with Junior. Herman's got a whole segment on his ass. Best restaurant in El Paso that you remember?
Wow. I'll go
you
with
remember? Kiki's. It's still there, man.
Yeah.
Who was your 2020 fighter of the year? And I say this because of COVID. So we were so limited in what we saw. Mine was Tyson Fury. Who was yours, man?
Tio Lopez.
Oh, Tio Lopez.
Yeah. But I don't think you could go wrong with either him or Fury. I mean, Fury, he put on such a great performance against Wilder.
Yeah. I like his entrance.
Wilder's entrance?
No, man, that guy. No, Fury in the King's chair, man. That was cool. No, Wilder came in with a costume that weighed like how much pounds, and that's what probably fucked him up for the fight.
Well, that's what he says.
That's what he said, and I know it's an excuse, but that costume was a little ridiculous.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Who do you think, projecting, right, that 2021 will be, who would think would be the fighter of the year?
Well, if Canelo fights 3 or 4 times, then I think it'll probably be him. But Oscar Valdez, who knocked out Berchelt.
Man, you think Berchelt is done?
Woo! After that, he might be.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Herman says.
I thought he was dead.
That was punishing. How can you come back from a beating like that?
And right. I know you've been talking about him in the gym. That how can you come back, man? Vicious. Name one thing that people don't know about you, man.
Woo! Wow.
What's called rapid fire.
I don't know. Geez, you got me on that one. I don't know. I'm not that interesting a guy.
I don't know, man.
You know what? I'll say. My dad was a football coach there in El Paso, and he He won a state track title at Abilene, Texas, and a
Cool,
national
man.
football title at Texas A&I. That's what I'll say.
That's cool, man. Favorite boxing match of all time that you've covered?
That I covered.
Or you know what, in general, that you like?
Okay, I'll give you both.
Okay.
That I covered, probably Eric Morales, Daniel Zaragoza.
That was in El Paso.
That was in El Paso in 1997. That Zaragoza was like 40 and Morales was 20 years old. And man, that guy would not go away. Zaragoza would not go away. He was he was there, and Morales had to work for it. He never and he grew. Eric Morales grew and learned on the job in that fight, and that's one of the reasons he ended up becoming a great fighter. In general, the greatest fight I've ever seen. You always got to put Hagler Hearns in there, right? And I would say Marco Antonio Barrera and Eric Morales, the first one.
Yeah.
Those are the two. And then going back, you had guys like Bobby Chacon and Cornelius Boza Edwards, and those guys. Edwards. Those guys was put on wars, man. And you remember that?
Yeah. In my era, I would say they would ask me that question was the Arturo Gotti, Mickey Ward.
Gotti Ward, yeah.
Yeah.
And also Jose Luis Castillo and Diego Corrales.
Oh my God, what a fight! Hey, Tony Weeks was the ref.
He was. Hey, I have a bone to pick with Tony Weeks. I guess he handled the fight right, but
he stopped it too early.
I thought Castillo. Well, remember Chico kept spitting out the mouthpiece.
Yeah, and they deducted a point.
Well, I think you could have made a case for a DQ.
I thought they should have.
That's true.
Because he did it twice or three times.
He did it twice, but the second time it was obvious he did it.
Yeah.
When you see a fighter who's so hurt that he's spitting out his mouthpiece in order to get, he should have taken out a point the first time, and the second time I think you could have made a case for a DQ.
So do you think, man, that, and I'm going to ask him that when I enter it, but do you think that the heat of the moment, nervousness, the adrenaline rush of a ref, I mean, it was wild, and he's probably not even thinking of that, or maybe that is something that is, again, that adrenaline, those stress factors that kick in when the sympathetic nervous system arises.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but I think Weeks actually handled it well. I felt bad for Castillo because I felt like he got a little screwed in that fight. Yeah, every time he should have won that fight. He should have won that fight. But
we have Diego Corrales' gloves there in the gym.
Yeah,
autographed glove.
Do you? Yeah. I met both of them one time. They're two of the nicest guys in the world. Yeah.
Hey, Matt, weren't they both going to fight the rematch here?
Yes.
Weren't they looking at fighting at the Don Haskins Center?
Yes, they were.
And it didn't happen, right?
It didn't happen, and Castillo ended up fighting a guy named Rolando Reyes in one of the boringest fights I've ever seen in my life.
Here in El Paso, right?
Yep.
In El Paso. Yeah, they were thinking, and then, that's right.
The trilogy fight was supposed to be in El Paso at the Don Haskins Center. It never happened.
It never happened, man. You brought up a good fight, and I'm going to talk to Tony about Mr. Weeks about that. What a fight, man. And I can see that fight over, like the trilogy of Gotti, Ward.
Yeah.
Just great fight. So your last rapid fire question, if you can bring back one fighter that is no longer with us on earth to see him or her one last time, who would it be, man?
Ooh, anybody in history?
Yeah, I mean, he's not longer with us no more.
Greatest fighter that ever lived, Sugar Ray Robinson.
You would like to see him?
Yeah.
What about
either him or Joe Louis.
Who would I say? You know what? Marvin Hagler went too soon, too young. I love to watch him. I love to watch him fight.
Marvin. That was a tough day. That was a tough day. There's a lot of people, and I think Max Kellerman said, it reminded me that the world I grew up in no longer exists.
I remember him fighting Vito Anafermo, and he was the man.
He was the man. I mean, and I think the boxing world is still kind of mourning the fact that
and he was so young, man.
Yeah,
he was young.
Do we still know why he died?
It sounds like a heart attack.
Poor guy.
It sounds like a heart, but like my dad said, my dad said something that's. He said that's too young, but then again, boxing is a lot harder than selling insurance. I mean, it's like It's like,
It's
you know,
on the body.
all those wars that he went through, you know, with Hearns, Mugabe, you know, and all those Philadelphia wars before he even fought for the world title.
In the gym.
In the gym. I mean, all those, you know, he's going against the best fighters of his generation regularly. I mean, that takes a toll on a body.
Wow. Well, that was Rapid Fire, folks, with Matt Aguilar. A pleasure, a divine pleasure, Matt. I mean, you've been awesome to talk to, man, and I hope I can see you again and interview you. And I don't know, you're not going to be coming down for the fight, right?
No,
fight?
I will. Unfortunately, I'll be leaving. I'll be going, and then I'll be leaving right before the fight.
But folks, you got to see his column. It comes out. Is it every other? Let me see. We put the column that runs every Saturday.
Right.
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday.
Yep.
On El Paso Times. Check them out, folks. Talks about boxing. I know I'm always waiting to see it when there's a big fight coming up. See what Matt has to say, and then I finally get to meet you, man. It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
Have a great night.
I appreciate it, guys.
You got it, my friend. Thanks for joining us, folks, at the Web Boxing Gym. And like I've always said, I'm going to sign off. Anything you do, you always put God first. Have a great evening, folks. See ya. Enjoy the fights this week and next week.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.